I should have known a simple paint job would set off fireworks in my quiet suburban neighborhood. All I wanted was to freshen up the old family ranch, maybe add a bit of charm, maybe some color that made it feel less like a forgotten relic and more like a home again. Nothing flashy, just a deep, earthy red, the kind you'd see on classic barns or cozy country homes. It felt right for the place. After all, this house had been in my family for more than 30 years. It had stories in its walls, memories in its wood, and roots that ran deeper than most of my neighbors' mortgages. The house sat on a generous corner lot, surrounded by towering oaks and a worn-out white fence that had given up trying to look decent. The original beige siding was tired, sun-bleached, and starting to peel. I figured it was time, so I hired a local crew, honest guys who knew their way around a brush, and by Saturday morning they were already hard at work. Ladders were up, paint was mixed, and by noon, one whole side of the ranch had transformed. That red looked even better than I imagined. Bold yet classic, warm but strong. The place looked alive again. And that's when I heard it. The unmistakable click-clack of expensive heels on my concrete driveway. I didn't have to turn around. I knew who it was. Cheryl, president of the HOA, queen of petty rules, and self-declared protector of suburban blandness. She was the type who lived for order. Not real order, but the cosmetic kind. Perfect lawns, color-matched mailboxes, beige stucco as far as the eye could see. And there she was, storming down my driveway like I'd just spray-painted curse, words across the American flag. She had a clipboard in one hand, a phone in the other, and a frown that looked surgically attached to her face. She stopped at the foot of the ladder and glared up at one of the painters. "What is going on here?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to slice through drywall. The painter, a kid named Raphael, froze with a brush in midair. I stepped out onto the porch, glass of iced tea in hand, and tried to keep my voice level. "Just repainting the place, Cheryl," I said, giving her a polite smile. "With that color?" she nearly gasped. "This is completely against HOA guidelines. You can't just paint your house without approval. There's a process." I raised an eyebrow and took a slow sip. "Cheryl, this house was here long before the HOA even existed." She crossed her arms. "That doesn't matter. This property is within our jurisdiction now. You're still bound by community regulations, and that color," she pointed like it was radioactive, "is not approved." I resisted the urge to laugh. Well, maybe it's time the rules got updated. She stepped closer, lowering her sunglasses, eyes burning with disbelief. "You think you can just do what you want? This neighborhood has standards. We have harmony here. You're disrupting that." I looked around. Identical beige houses, identical driveways, not a single home with a shred of personality. I didn't realize harmony meant living in a paint swatch. Her face turned redder than my siding. "This will be reported," she snapped, "to the board, immediately." "Be my guest," I said, leaning casually on the porch railing. "But maybe before you do that, you should double-check the property records." She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Just a suggestion." She spun on her heel and marched away, already dialing on her phone. I watched her go, amused more than anything. She had no idea. No clue about the paperwork sitting in my office, or the land she thought she governed. She was so busy enforcing rules she never stopped to consider who owned the rulebook, and this was just the beginning. By the time Cheryl disappeared down my driveway, barking into her phone like she was reporting a federal crime, I was already inside digging through my office filing cabinet. Not because I was worried, far from Jersey, but because I knew something Cheryl didn't. Something that would make her clipboard shake in her manicured hands. You see, this neighborhood, this whole little community of neatly manicured lawns and HOA paranoia, sits on land that used to belong entirely to my grandfather. Back when he was alive, he owned everything around here. It was all one massive ranch, stretching across acres and acres of quiet Texas countryside. When the suburban sprawl finally reached us in the late 80s, he sold off sections of the land to developers, piece by piece. Houses went up, streets got names, driveways replaced, dirt roads, But there was one thing he never sold: the central lot. That lot includes the clubhouse, the walking trails, the tiny playground with the splintery bench, even the little duck pond that Cheryl likes to call our community oasis. It's all technically still part of the original tract. When Grandpa passed away, that land came to me. Not the houses, just the dirt underneath the shared spaces the HOA pretends to manage. Here's the catch: the HOA uses that land, maintains it, builds on it. But they never formally purchased or leased it, not once. No contract, no easement, no transfer of ownership. They just assumed it belonged to them because no one ever told them otherwise. And I never bothered correcting them. Why would I? I didn't mind them mowing the grass or repainting the benches. It saved me the trouble. I let them play pretend. Until today. I found the deed in a manila folder labeled Original Holdings. The paper was old but sharp, signed by my grandfather in perfect cursive, stamped, sealed, and notarized. The HOA land, about 11.4 acres in total, was mine, still legally recorded under my name. I flipped to the map, a grainy copy of the original survey. Sure enough, the HOA clubhouse sat right in the middle of it. I sat back in my chair and smiled. Cheryl thought she had authority over my home, over me, but in reality, she was running a little organization on land she didn't even own. And now she was threatening me? Over paint? I picked up my phone and called my lawyer, Mike. He'd helped me with zoning issues before and had a sharp sense of humor, which was important for what I was about to propose. "Mike," I said as soon as he answered, "You got a minute?" "For you?" "Always. What's up?" I leaned back and tossed the deed onto my desk. "The HOA just tried to shut me down over repainting my house." He groaned. "Again with those people? They don't realize the clubhouse, trails, and all their common areas are still sitting on land I own." There was a beat of silence. "You're kidding." "Not at all." Another pause. "You want to make them sweat?" "I want to remind them where they stand. Or rather, where they don't stand." Mike laughed. "Send me a scan of the deed, I'll draft something. Maybe a nice little notice of land use violation? Make it sound official, real serious." "Oh, don't worry," he said. "By the time we're done, Cheryl will be begging to repaint your house herself." I hung up and scanned the documents. As I sent them over, I glanced out the window. The painters were still working, unfazed. The red looked bold against the sky, proud even. It wasn't just paint. It was a statement. And the queen of the HOA was about to learn exactly what it meant to rule without a kingdom.